Prime Minister has given a very strong message on terrorism at the G7 summit. The Prime Minister has said that terrorism is an enemy of humanity. It is against all countries that uphold democratic values. For global peace and prosperity, our thoughts and policies must be clear. If any country supports terrorism, it will have to pay the price for it. This is the Prime Minister's message. My colleague Rishabh is joining us on the broadcast with the details. Rishabh, this is a very important message from the Prime Minister. He invoked Pahalgam as he said that terrorism and what happened in Pahalgam was not an attack on India, but it was an attack on the entire humanity. He has in fact called out not just the terrorists, but also the countries that support terrorism.
Well, definitely. It was the first address by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at any global forum post-Pahalgam attack and post-Sindoor. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi very categorically said that, there cannot be any double standards on terrorism. And what happened in Pahalgam was not an attack on India, but it was the attack on the humanity, and the world needs to act against terrorism. In a way, very categorically, India is saying that India is not going to tolerate any terror-related issues in India and worldwide as well. And a global coordination, global alliance against terrorism is something that is need of an hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is as many words, without naming Pakistan, has called out the neighboring country for the cross-border terrorism as well as the terrorism in the region for that matter. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he left for G7, there were a lot of discussions. He also met the 7 delegations that came back from 33 countries and took feedback from them also that what the world is thinking about India's Operation Sindoor. And with all those feedback, he went to G7. At G7, where there were many takers of even Pakistan narrative, India put forward its best foot forward and ensured that the world knows what India's take on terrorism is and what India's vision, India's action against terrorism would be.
Okay, all right. Ambassador Sajjanar continues to stay with us. And Ambassador, the Prime Minister's message on Pahalgam, as he called it, not just an attack on humanity, but he also called out the countries that are aiding terror. We had Operation Sindoor envoys going to different parts of the country, but this was the Prime Minister of the country calling out Pakistan, calling out the countries that are aiding terror.
No, absolutely. I think his message was loud and clear. Pratibha, you would notice that whenever Prime Minister has taken any international stage, he has always spoken out against global terror, about cross-border terror. And this time, of course, was different in the sense that this participation of Prime Minister Modi in the G7 was coming immediately after the Pahalgam attack and Operation Sindoor, the very successful operation in which India was able to decapitate 9 of the terrorist strongholds and hideouts and kill more than 100 terrorists who were holed up there. And also because Pakistan retaliated, India had also to hit back, and it was able to absolutely, completely devastate 13 of the airfields and many of the military assets of Pakistan. So I think it was a very emphatic and decisive victory that India had registered in this short 88-hour confrontation with Pakistan. And Prime Minister was participating in this meeting. Just after all these developments, India had sent out its 7 delegations, and they had been able to, of course, I don't think that there is any doubt in anyone's mind around the world that Pakistan is an epicenter of terror. It has been on the FATF list 3 times. And no country would be on the FATF list for extended periods so frequently, on so many occasions, if its hands were not really deep into this whole issue of supporting terrorism. Pakistan uses terror as an instrument of foreign policy. And the Prime Minister was able to, in his bilateral deliberations and interactions with the world leaders, as also from the G7 outreach stage that he occupied and that he addressed. He spoke about this. Of course, there were other major issues that confront the world, whether it is global peace, whether it is West Asia, whether it's climate change. I'm sure all trade, all of those would have formed a part, but this has been a very significant element of his address, and I'm sure the message has gone to the world.
Okay, all right. In fact, the Prime Minister has spoken about the Pahalgam terror attack, and he has spoken about how this is an attack on humanity. And the Prime Minister, like you mentioned, has said it time and again. In every global forum, the Prime Minister has spoken about terrorism. We have more breaking updates coming in while we speak of the Prime Minister's visit to Canada and the resetting of India and Canada relations.